Welcome to this video, Rules for Spiritual Growth, Guidelines for Traveling the Spiritual Path. According to the teachings of Alice Bailey, and this video is done by me, Dr. Lisa Love, and we're going to study Rule 1, the Heart's Deep Cave, in this video. So these rules apply primarily to what Bailey would call the probationary disciple. This is part of Group 7 of her 10 groups. And this is the first of 14 rules found in the Alice Bailey book, Initiation, Human and Solar, that those who connected to Bailey's Group 7 probationary discipleship stage are meant to follow. And just a note, Group 7 covers her little Chela-ship and Chela in the light stages, who are meant to follow these rules as well. So these rules are only recommendations, and Bailey says if they are followed, we are told that they will help prevent difficulties known as cleavages or gaps in development as we continue to move along the spiritual path. So here is the rule. Let's read it out loud together. Let the disciple search within the heart's deep cave. If there the fire burns bright, warming his brother, yet heating not himself, the hour has come for making application to stand before the door. And here is the commentary. Let's read that. When love for all beings, irrespective of who they may be, is beginning to be a realized fact in the heart of a disciple, and yet nevertheless love for himself exists not, then comes the indication that he is nearing the portal of initiation and may make the necessary preliminary pledges. These are necessitated before his master hands in his name as a candidate for initiation. And let's make a clarification here. At this stage, what Bailey is talking about when she uses the word master is your own soul. Your own soul is the one that takes you through initiation at this standpoint. Let's continue to also look at another thing. When we look at the rule and the commentary by Alice Bailey, this was written in the 1920s, and back then they did not distinguish with he and she and gender pronouns. Everything was written in he and his, so let's just let that go for now. Let's continue with the commentary from Alice Bailey. If he cares not for the suffering and pain of the lower self, if it is immaterial to him whether happiness comes his way or not, if the sole purpose of his life is to serve and save the world, and if his brother's need is for him of greater moment than his own, then is the fire of love irradiating his being, and the world can warm itself at his feet. This love has to be a practical, tested manifestation, and not just a theory or simply an impractical ideal and a pleasing sentiment. It is something that has grown in the trials and tests of life, so that the primary impulse of the life is towards self-sacrifice and the immolation of the lower nature. So let's look at some of my highlights of this particular text. So the main thing with this rule is that within that heart's deep cave, love for all beings has to be there. Now, we see that that is beginning to be a realized fact, but we also know that it's not simply an ideal, I love everybody, or a pleasing sentiment. It's something that is starting to be seen. It's beginning to be realized, this drive to love all beings and to demonstrate that love. And this can be a triggering kind of phrase. He cares not for the suffering and pain of the lower self. And also this phrase, it is immaterial whether happiness comes his way or not, because we live in a culture that is so driven, especially in the West, towards achieving our own happiness. But that happiness is often at a personality level, which is selfish, which ultimately leads to suffering. That is what leads to the suffering and pain of the lower self. It's not that we're supposed to abuse ourselves and humiliate ourselves and live a terrible life. It's that we have a proper understanding of what will lead to our happiness as soul, which the soul, our master, is trying to bring us towards, and what will lead to the suffering and pain of the lower self, which is anything that is going to be selfish in nature. We also see that it is important that our brother or sister's need is for us of greater moment than the needs of ourselves. And at this stage, that's going to be a very beginning. We have to be saints or masters ourselves to really offer everything that we can for others. But at this particular level, with Rule 1 at the probationary discipleship stage, Group 7, Little Chelaship, Chelin, the light, we are just beginning this process. Why? Because it seems too hard for us to think of other people's needs more than our own. The fire of love is irradiating our being, and the more that happens, the more the world or our friends or our family members or those in our communities, or as we reach an even higher level, it will be our countries, etc., the more others want to be around us, regardless of what in the Bailey teachings is known as our ray makeup or our type, so to speak. Others will want to be around us because they feel that warmth of love. And again, this has to be practical, tested manifestation, not just simply a theory or an impractical ideal. If it's a theory or just a platitude, then we're really at what we would call Group 6 aspirant stage and not yet probationary disciples in this teaching. And the primary impulse of our life has to be towards self-sacrifice. We have to want to learn the practice of giving so that in that way we receive. We want to experience within ourselves that deeper and deeper motivation of the joy of that giving. And if we're experiencing suffering while we're doing that giving, in the Bailey teachings, then we're really experiencing a glamour, a distortion. It has to be a joyful giving. Her definition of sacrifice is a joyful giving. If it's not a joyful giving, there's a distortion going on here. So now I'm going to add a little bit more of my own commentary, especially in the Group 7 probationary discipleship stage. We see a more genuine orientation towards loving and helping others. It may come and go throughout the day, but it's there in moments throughout the day, or at times even more than moments. But it is the general orientation of our lives to tread this path, to learn to serve and give and love, and to do our best each and every day, and to look at ourselves and our mistakes when we're not doing our best. We want to become able to love and help others more genuinely. And in the stage before this, Group 6 materialist, and then Group 6 aspirant, we may do philanthropic work, but especially at the materialist stage, the motive is selfish. We put our name on a building or we give to other people because of the rewards that it will give to us. So the recognition and the rewards that we will get for our own efforts is what the Group 6 materialists will do. So I'll give money so long as I get a tax write-off for it. I'll put my name on the building so long as I get the prestige for it, or be on the board of a particular philanthropic organization so long as other people notice me and I have power over others, or I am able by being on that board or with that group of philanthropic people to be surrounded by others who I think are important, or people in my community or people in my state or province or nation or world see me as somebody special. That is the group 6 materialist, which only gives so that it can get. It's not a genuine orientation towards loving and helping others. It's very selfish. When we shift to the group 6 aspirant stage, now that is my division. I've taken the group 6 materialist stage, which is what Bailey would call the integrated personality, and the group 6 aspirant stage, where they're starting to somewhat tread the spiritual path, and I've divided them into these two subgroups. But at the group 6 aspirant stage, the motive is mixed. There are times we genuinely want to serve others. There are times we genuinely want to give and know that it will benefit others. We give to something, and yes, our name goes on the plaque, but we really wanted to see that thrive. And there are other times that it's a mixture. We want to make sure that we still get that notoriety for what we did, that we get that recognition, or we get that tax break. Maybe we're happy to help that organization and we don't care if we get our name on a plaque, but we sure as heck want to make sure we get that tax break. At the probationary stage, this is less and less the case. We are searching more deeply within our own hearts. The cave within the heart where the life thread is attached is fed by the soul energy. That nourishment of giving, of loving, is creating a fire that burns bright. And that's what helps us really want to be of service to others no matter what, because we feel that fire within our heart's deep cave. And the brighter it burns and the more it warms others, the more we get joy out of that and the more we want to do that. Now, the probationer will still have a motive that is selfish to some degree, but most of the motive will be increasingly along the lines of service, and it is immaterial whether they are happy or not. Now, again, if it's a true giving, in a way we can't help but be happy with it or joyful with it, because we are getting the nourishment from the soul within our heart's deep cave that's helping to have that fire burn brighter and brighter within us. So Bailey makes a distinction between joy and happiness. Happiness is an emotion that comes and goes. We're happy if we get what we want. We're unhappy if we don't get what we want. But joy is there regardless of whether at a personal level we get what we want or not. That's something to remember as we go through this rule. Also, we see increasingly how Group 7 probationer disciples have less sentiment. They're trying to be more practical in their approach to service, combined with a true desire to sacrifice again that definition of joyful giving. This is a really important point because, especially at the beginning stages of little chelaship with Group 7 probationers, and especially with Group 6 aspirants, there's a lot of sentiment. There's a lot of idealism. Now, that's a good thing. We want that at first, but then it has to get grounded so that the service can really benefit each other, benefit other people. So, for example, it's not enough if you see somebody that's had an accident and you pull over by the side of the road to just simply say, "Oh, I wish I could help you." And it's a little better step to say, as they're bleeding, "Okay, let me pray over you." But it's an even better step to say, "I'm trained in first aid. Let me put a tourniquet around you." Or if I'm not trained in first aid, let me call 911. And maybe I'm trained in first aid and I can put a tourniquet around you. Maybe I can call 911, or if I'm a doctor, maybe I can do even more than that. I can do something right there on the spot if I'm really trained. And I can pray too, and I can send healing love too. But the more practical I am and the less sentimental I am, the better. And that becomes even more crucial if we want to get into Group 8 in her accepting discipleship, and then accepted discipleship stages, and especially if you want to get into group 9 where we become initiates. It's all about service, and we have to start demonstrating at the level of the probationary disciple, her group 7, that we are getting practical. So I have separated out the commentary from meditations that I've created on these videos. And you can find the meditation video on Rule 1 on this Soul to Spirit YouTube channel. And the reason I've done that is so that instead of mentally thinking about the rule, you begin to deepen your understanding of it by meditating upon your application of it. It's important to see how well we are following these rules. And that's not only important for beginners, it's important for advanced students as well. So thank you so much for watching this video. I like to give credit where it's due. This video was created by me, Dr. Lisa Love. The photos were purchased for use from 123rf.com. The music was purchased for use. It's Kevin McLeod's Meditation Impromptu 1. If you want to support this work, become a patron at patreon.com/soul to spirit. When you do, you get copies of charts I've created, the books I'm creating. There will be a series of 12 books eventually, and you get an inside look into the process of what's next with these videos and also with books and more. Want to learn more? Visit the website soul2spirit.com. Enjoy this YouTube channel. Please subscribe.